All right, guys, answer me this. Okay, go down this road. What is stronger within you personally? Now, the topic is regret, but here's the two scenarios. Some time passes, you look back. You regret that you did not do something that you knew needed to be done. And it'll be really easy to apply to either school or to sport, either one, whether it was studying more for a test or in the world of sport. Let's say you had to run, right? You had to get up and run for whatever your sport was. And you knew you would be better, but you hated running so much you didn't do it, just for an example. So the regret of not doing something you knew you needed to do versus the regret, as you look back, the regret of not knowing you should have done something. Do you understand the difference? You look back and go, oh my, how did I not know that running would have helped that? How did I not know that getting in a study group would have helped that? Because I'm that one. If I was just personalized, that's the one I am. So looking back going, how did I not know that? It's so obvious, Herb. I wish somebody would have told me. And I'm looking at Max. I'm looking at Max Holloway, and I'm wondering if he's making a mistake. He would not be able to know. He wouldn't be able to answer that question for me. Now, he could 10 years from now, but that's how regret works, right? That's how regret works. You look back, and Max is nearly perfect. It'd be a really hard thing to do to study from the moments competing to all of the years leading into the competition. So now I'm talking about lifestyle. It'd be very hard to look at what Max does on a daily basis and point to something that if he did different, you would project he'd have a better moment while competing. It'd be hard. That's where I say he's perfect. Nearly, right? But there's always something. There's always something that can get in your way. Now, hold the Max thought. I want to back up to an example of Volkanovski versus Islam. Volkanovski versus Islam, part 1, had a number of things on it that part 2 did not. And the way that story will be told, part 2 versus part 1, the way that story will be told is the difference in competitiveness and the difference in performance. The match that was known as part 2, the match versus part 1. The difference was the short notice of Volkanovski, and that is it, and we are done and turn the page. But it's not accurate. That is not accurate. There was a number of things that part 1 had and offered that part 2 did not. None of which are larger than the fact that Volk had no pressure in part 1. None. It was a different level of expectation. He was a 3-1 underdog. For example, he was moving up and Islam was the heir apparent, anointed by King Khabib himself. Stopped Oliveira easily, who had been running through everybody like a hot butter through knife. There you got this smaller guy, found himself an opportunity and got to go get this out of the way. It's a little annoying for Islam. He's not going to get a ton of credit. He beats this guy. Right? If he loses to the guy, he loses the world championship. If he beats the guy, he gets nothing. And the guy had a world championship. It wasn't on the line, right? It was one of these things. And that wasn't prevalent in fight 2. There was an expectation. We now do have an understanding. The idea that Volk has no chance is gone. Volk is a dog. I can't wait to see part 2. And it was just a different scenario. And I would suggest for you in part 1, when I talk about no pressure, or when you hear the word pressure, you automatically connect that with something negative. Automatically. Well, who's got the pressure? And then if you can clearly identify who's got the pressure, that's a knock against him. And that is a gross misunderstanding. Now, pressure does matter, and I'm not saying it's always your friend. I'm not saying it's always helpful. That's what some jerk would say to sell a book on Amazon, as though he's got the secret answer, and pressure is so great, and here's how you use it in your favor. It's not quite like that, but I can remember Volk speaking about this, that if he beat Islam and won that belt, that he was going to go back to 45 and he was going to take over there. I believe at that time it was between Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett, but you guys get that sorted out and Volk will be back. And then you 55-pounders, keep your eyes open because Volk's coming, and Volk's real consistent. He's real consistent with his idea that he likes to be consistent. Like if anybody would have done their best, the UFC wouldn't have given him the fights. But if anybody would have done it, had they been able to get the fights, he would have kept a full schedule and defended both of those. I understand all those things, but the other side, and that's the cool part, right? But what's the other part? The other part is regardless of outcome, he already has his next fight lined up in his own mind, and he had told us, which was the winner of Islam versus, the winner of Yair Rodriguez versus Josh Emmett. He was letting 45 know, I'm not leaving you. I am still the king and I'm coming home. You guys have some business to take care of. I'm not holding anything up. You get that taken care of in a very timely fashion, as though I had never even come up to 155. I will be defending. It was great. He was trying to do all the things, but what's the byproduct? The byproduct is what a soft landing. We talk about that word pressure. And he found himself in a situation that had removed all pressure. And no, unlike the jerk that tries to sell you a book on Amazon by telling you how great it can be, I'm not doing that, but I will tell you the removal of all pressure isn't any better. And I say that to you because as close as Volk and Islam Part 1 was, as close as it was, I maintain for you to this day, had Volk vacated, had he given 45 back, there was no outcome of Yair or Emmett. There was no look, there was no focus. It was all in on 55 or nothing. I win tonight. My next fight is a world title fight because I'm bringing it. I don't win tonight. My next fight is not a world title fight. And I just maintain for you that idea of burning his ships was the one thing that was missing in Part 1. And the reason I give you that example, when Max is talking about Gaethje, I mean, don't forget, Max has 2 forays at 155 pounds, just to remind you. The first of which was scrapped by the New York State Athletic Commission 24 hours before the bout. He wasn't even able to weigh in. So that was one opportunity. One opportunity of a signed bout agreement at 155 pounds, a license, arriving, a marketing plan, the whole bit was to have no fight at all. And the next one was opposite Poirier. There was 5 rounds and Poirier won all 5 rounds. Was it the size? Was it the style of the fight? Was it a better fighter? I mean, these are all things that are open for discussion. But what I am attempting to prove is 55 has not been overly fruitful for Max. So what is going to be different this time? I don't ask you that in a challenging way. I challenge you with that ask, because if you take the time to answer it, you'll find out, hey, he can do great here. I understand those things too. But I am hearing from Max how much he wants to go to 45, how much he wants to get a win here, get that good attention, and return to 45. When Max very first started saying it, and see, and one of the reasons I want to change that is I think that we would all get that. If you're a competitive guy at 45, you got a problem with Volkanovski, you drop it, you don't just go run somewhere else, right? It's one of those things where, no. I'll stand here number 2, but I will stand here before I run up here to be number 1. It's an ego and it's an internal thing. And it's not necessarily how you're going to be remembered and looked at by society, but there's something within you. It's a very common thing amongst athletes. Now, the reason I tell you that is when Max first started saying that, Volk was on top. Max was not armed with the information that running away as a way of getting away from Volk is no longer the situation, that just is impossible. I've never lost to, I've never competed with, I don't have any heat with Ilia Topuria. He can go on and have his life, and I can go on and have mine, 155 pounds, and when we both look back, there's no regret. And I'm only sharing for you, maybe Max has changed his mind. Maybe 145 wasn't this magical number that he just had in his head at night, and that's the cool place to be. I think it had to do with Volkanovski. I think. And if I'm right, okay, great. There's still an opportunity to move on. But you're going to need everything that you got to be Justin Gaethje. And Justin, while having pressure of it being his weight class, largely is in a much more ideal position, of which Max can meet head on. He can be in that same position. He doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to beat anybody. It's a statement. It's a statement that he has to make. He makes a statement. He puts it what they call the universe. It comes back to him, and I'm only sharing. He wakes up each day thinking, well, I'm the little guy, and I'm going up. Little guy, and I'm going up. I'm gonna give it hell up here, and I really think I can do it. It's subconscious. But if you're planning to go back down, you're looking for title fights down there. You're planning to call those guys out. You're calling guys out, not planning to stay, not planning to defend, not planning to defend the BMF at 155, not planning to use the BMF to get a number one contendership to go back to Islam. You're not planning to do anything with it. Even if it's subconscious, is a layer of subconsciousness that's telling you, I don't plan to win.